There is a psalm that begins with the most intimate possible statement of being known. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. And moves through one of the most extraordinary meditations on divine omnipresence in all of ancient literature to arrive at something that surprised me when I first noticed it, a request for help with enemies and a prayer against the wicked. Psalm 139 is a poem of unusual psychological complexity, and today we read it with Carl Jung. Let me read the opening movement of the psalm. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. King David, the psalmist, is describing being known, comprehensively, completely, without remainder. Every thought, every movement, every unspoken word. The Lord is familiar with all my ways. The Hebrew word for familiar here, sakanta, carries the sense of being thoroughly acquainted with, the way you are acquainted with a place you have lived in for a long time. Jung would begin here, because this kind of comprehensive knowing is precisely what he associated with the self, the totality of the psyche that contains everything the ego has not yet brought to consciousness. The self knows the contents of the unconscious that the ego does not know. And the encounter with the self has exactly this quality, the sense of being known more completely than you know yourself. The psalm moves into one of the most celebrated passages in the Hebrew Bible. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. The psalmist is not primarily celebrating the omnipresence of God as a theological proposition. He is wrestling with it. Where can I flee? The question implies the desire to flee, or at least the acknowledgement that such a desire is comprehensible, that there is something in the human being that sometimes wants to be beyond the reach of this knowing. Jung would find this psychological honesty remarkable. The psalm does not pretend that being comprehensively known is always comfortable. The question, where can I flee, is not rhetorical in the dismissive sense. It is a real question about a real impulse. And the answer, you cannot. Even the darkness is light to you, is not triumphant. It's almost reluctant. You cannot hide, even if you make your bed in the depths, even there. This is the quality of the self's pursuit of the ego that Jung documented across his career in his own autobiography. The self, the deeper totality of the psyche, with its movement towards wholeness, is not deterred by the ego's preference for remaining as it is. It finds you in the places you have made your bed in the depths. It is present in the darkness that you chose because you thought it would conceal you. It is there in the Sheol of the psyche, the underworld, the depression, the darkness of the unconscious, with the same insistence as in the heights. Jung called this relentlessness the telos of the psyche, the purposiveness of the individuation process. The self is moving toward completion. The ego can delay this, resist it, flee from it, make its bed in the depths rather than cooperate with what is required. But the self does not abandon the pursuit. It waits in the darkness. It is there in the morning and in the far side of the sea. It is familiar with all the ways, including the ways you took specifically to avoid it. The psalm then moves to the creation of the individual self in a passage of great beauty. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. You knit me together in my mother's womb. The image of divine craftsmanship applied to the embryo, the forming of the individual in the hidden place, the unseen body becoming visible to divine sight before it is visible to anything else. Jung would read this as a statement about the nature of the self in relation to the ego. The totality of who the person will be is, in some sense, present from the beginning. The individuation process does not create the self. It reveals it, unfolds it, brings it into greater consciousness. The blueprint, if you will, was knit into the inmost being before the person was born. The phrase fearfully and wonderfully made deserves attention. The Hebrew is Norah Niflaati, which carries connotations of awe, of terror, of the numinous. The same word used for the terrifying encounters with the divine in the prophetic literature is used here for the making of the individual human body. To be human, to have a body, to have an inmost being, to be this particular woven thing, is itself numinous. It inspires awe. It is not ordinary. This is a point Jung made frequently, in various registers. The individual human psyche is not ordinary. It is the site of the encounter between the personal and transpersonal, between the finite and what exceeds it. The person who dismisses their own inner life as merely personal, merely psychological, merely a function of their neurological processes, has not yet understood what they are carrying. The psalm then makes a move that startles many readers. It ends with a plea against enemies and an invitation to divine scrutiny that is simultaneously open and anxious. If only you, God, would slay the wicked, away from me. You who are bloodthirsty, they speak of you with evil intents. Your enemies misuse your name. Do I not hate those who hate you, Lord, and abhor those who are in rebellion against you? And then, after this startling passage, search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Jung would find the ending of Psalm 139 psychologically very interesting, precisely because of this juxtaposition. The psalmist has spent the whole poem affirming that God knows everything about them, has searched them, knows their sitting and rising, their thoughts from afar, their unformed body, and then at the end they ask, search me. This is not redundant. It is the voluntary invitation of what has already been the condition. The psalm begins with the acknowledgement that the knowing is already happening, is already complete. It ends with the conscious choice to affirm that knowing, to invite it, to offer the anxious thoughts, to ask to be led in the way everlasting. Jung would call this the ego's cooperation with the individuation process. The self is already doing what the self does, searching, knowing, present in the heights and the depths. The ego cannot prevent this, but the ego can resist it, can flee from it, can make its bed in the depths and pretend the darkness will hide it. Or, and this is the psychological achievement that the ending of the psalm describes, the ego can turn and say, yes, search me, know my heart, and lead me. The psalm begins in being known. It ends in choosing to be known. And the distance between those two things is the distance of a life.